Good afternoon. Let us pause for a moment to recall that we are surrounded by the presence of God. And so we pray. Gracious God, you are the giver of every good gift. We thank you for your many gifts, and we praise you as the source of all that we have and all that we are. Teach us to recognize your blessings around us and to be thankful for the many expressions of your love that we experience daily. On this day, we celebrate the achievements of our graduates as they receive their diplomas, the result of many years of academic effort. We ask your blessings upon the graduates that we are about to honor, the families and the friends gathered here who have supported these graduates during their academic journeys, the UDM, faculty, staff, administration, and all who share their talents within this university community. As we recognize those who have achieved academic goals, help us all to renew our commitment to sharing our learning and our talents. May each of us extend your gifts through lives of service, deeds of hospitality, and concern for each other. In the spirit of our founders, Ignatius Loyola and Catherine Macaulay, may we act in all things with justice and mercy. And finally, Spirit of God, we ask you to continue to guide our graduates. May they grow in wisdom, may they demonstrate compassion, and may they become leaders in justice. Be with us here and now as we celebrate our graduates, grateful for all your gifts, enjoying your goodness, O Holy One. And to this prayer we say, Amen.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all thy sons command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still
Would everyone please be seated? It is now my privilege to present to you the President of the University of Detroit Mercy, Dr. Antoine Garibaldi.
Thank you, Dean Hannafin. Assistant Secretary Ochoa, University of Detroit Mercy trustees, faculty, staff, students, parents, spouses, relatives, and friends, and most especially, members of the 2012 graduating class. Welcome to University of Detroit Mercy's 2012 commencement ceremony, and an early happy Mother's Day to all of the mothers in the audience. At this McNichols campus commencement ceremony, we are celebrating the graduation of 1,191 students. 744 graduates are receiving a bachelor's degree. 436 are receiving a master's or specialist degree, and 11 are earning doctoral degrees. Many of the University of Detroit Mercy faculty and staff are as excited as you are today because they have not only had the privilege of teaching you, but they have also watched you develop intellectually, socially, spiritually, and ethically during your time as a UDM student. They also know very well that you have enormous potential and that you will be effective leaders in your professions and in your communities. Our 2012 UDM class of baccalaureate graduates can best be described as a mix of youthfulness and maturity. To illustrate this point, 533, or 72%, of our 744 baccalaureate graduates are under the age of 30. But the other 211 students, or 28%, are more than 30 years old, including a youthful 67-year-old. Almost 50% of our 436 master's and specialist graduates are also under the age of 30, but one of our 199 graduate students, who is over 30 years old, is also a mature 61-year-old. And our class of doctoral graduates, which has several 30-year-olds, also includes a young 26-year-old and also a younger 45-year-old. Learning is a lifelong process, and as you can tell, it does not matter how old or young you are. On occasions like this, it is always important to thank those who helped to make this day of celebration possible. Of course, at the top of this list are your parents, spouses, siblings, and other relatives, followed by close friends and your mentors. You know how strongly they have supported you as you worked hard to balance your class schedules, your co-ops and internships, your clinical placements, your exams, your daytime and nighttime jobs, and also your family obligations. And in many cases, they have provided you with important financial support while making extraordinary sacrifices so that you could concentrate on your studies and obtain your degrees. Your families, friends, and mentors have also provided you with the motivation and inspiration to succeed. And often, when you did not even know it, they were saying special prayers for you so that you would have the strength and perseverance to finish your degree. Well, that day has arrived, so please make sure to thank them for everything they have done for you. The University of Detroit Mercy faculty and staff also deserve some of your thanks and appreciation. And this is the perfect week to thank your professors, university staff, and even those who taught you in elementary and high school. On Tuesday of this past week, the U.S. Department of Education dedicated a day exclusively to thanking a teacher or teachers who made a difference in our lives. The Department of Education encouraged citizens to thank teachers on Facebook or Twitter. But today, because we are fortunate to have Secretary Eduardo Ochoa from the U.S. Department of Education with us today, you don't have to tell us, and tell me in particular, if you follow through on that promise. But because Secretary Ochoa is here, and I'm asking his permission, I'm asking you to make sure to recognize your UDM faculty and staff members who have assisted you in your intellectual, social, ethical, and spiritual growth, and also your development. And make sure that you do it before the weekend is out. This occasion to thank teachers this week is also an opportunity for me to promote my own consideration of teaching as a profession at the elementary, secondary, and post-secondary level. Having been a teacher at each of those levels, as well as the chairman of education, I can tell you that we need more teachers for our schools as well as our colleges and universities. It is very difficult to place a price on the value of teachers because what they do every day is priceless. And it is important that we all convey that appreciation to them. Personally, I've maintained contact with many of my own teachers over my career, and it's always uplifting to tell them about the impact they had on me. Such was the case last week when I spoke to a favorite Howard University professor of mine, Dr. William A. Banner. Dr. Banner is a young 97-year-old, and he was chairman of Howard's philosophy department when I was an undergraduate student. I was impressed with his teaching and scholarly knowledge at that time, and that was before I knew he had a master's from Yale in 1938 and a PhD from Harvard in 1947. Even in his 90s, he's writing books on St. Augustine. Dr. Banner and I have stayed in touch since that first class I took with him as a junior in 1971, and I would have never imagined that 41 years later, I would be in Detroit, where he spent a summer working in a Ford plant in 1936 in between his 1935 baccalaureate graduation from Penn State and his graduate work at Yale on his master's. Dr. Banner is one of my teaching heroes, and we have many of those same inspirational faculty and staff heroes today in Callahan Hall. So graduates, take a few minutes to thank them before the weekend is over. Now that you've obtained an excellent academic and spiritual foundation here at the university, apply the values and skills that you have learned and the personal attributes that you have developed as you join many of the more than 83,000 outstanding leaders who are alumni of this great institution. One person can make a world of difference, and I know you will. Congratulations. I wish you continued success, and may God's blessings always be with you and your families.
Thank you, Dr. Garibaldi. The candidate for honorary degree will be presented by the Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs, Pamela Zarkowski, and Mr. John Lewis, the Chair of the University's Board of Trustees.
Thank you. Will Dr. Eduardo Ochoa please come forward? As the U.S. Secretary of Education's Chief Advisor on Higher Education Issues, your previous positions as Professor, Provost, and Dean at 4 distinguished California state universities, as well as your advanced degrees in science and economics, are very valuable as you strive to make higher education more accessible and affordable for all. You were appointed by President Barack Obama and confirmed by the U.S. Senate in June 2010 to serve as Assistant Secretary for Post-Secondary Education, where you administer more than 60 programs totaling nearly $3 billion annually that provide financial assistance to eligible students who are enrolled in post-secondary institutions. Your commitment to and experience with academic excellence, cultural diversity, and increasing college access are synonymous with the goals and values the University of Detroit Mercy has espoused for 135 years. UDM is inspired by your dedicated efforts to increase the nation's college completion rates and enroll more students in college to meet President Obama's goal by 2020. Your personal encouragement of our nation's youth to achieve at their highest levels so that they will obtain a diploma and be well prepared to excel in college and pursue advanced degrees will yield positive results in the near future. You know that achieving lofty goals is possible because you followed your dreams when you immigrated with your family to the United States from Buenos Aires, Argentina. Pursuing your education seriously and with rigor, you first obtained a bachelor's degree in physics from Reed College, then earned a master's degree in nuclear science and engineering at Columbia University, followed by a PhD in economics at the New School for Social Research. University of Detroit Mercy applauds your dedication to ensuring that the United States retains its reputation of having the best higher education system in the world. Enhancing our educational system and expanding access will make our country stronger with an informed, engaged, and economically viable society. In recognition of your exceptional leadership in the field of education, the University of Detroit Mercy proudly bestows upon you the Doctor of Humane Letters, honoris causa.
By the authority vested in me, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters, honoris causa. Congratulations. It is now my privilege to present Assistant Secretary for Postsecondary Education, Ochoa, to deliver the commencement address.
Thank you, President Garibaldi and Provost Zarkowski, for that generous introduction and accounting of my work to this point. Hello, University of Detroit Mercy class of 2012. I thank President Garibaldi and the University of Detroit Mercy community for inviting me to share this happy occasion with you. And I am honored to have the opportunity to speak to you on this happy day for you, your families, and all of us here today. Graduates, this is a special day in your life, one that you will always remember and look back on it fondly. You've worked hard to get to this point, and you're entitled to celebrate, so congratulations. You have also done this because you had the support of your families, who deserve recognition for their efforts on your behalf as well. And not to be overlooked, the faculty and staff of the University of Detroit Mercy, who are dedicated to your success and who draw deep satisfaction from seeing you achieve it. So I would ask you, graduates, now to thank all of these people for their support for you. I'm sure that these past few years you have taken advantage of the resources that the University of Detroit Mercy has put at your disposal to make your undergraduate experience a rich and rewarding one. From developing critical thinking abilities, communication skills, learning how to work in teams, and acquiring multicultural competencies, to learning about the natural and social worlds, the achievements of human civilizations, and engaging in deep and rigorous work in a specific discipline, i.e. your major. But the most enduring and valuable competency you have acquired is that you have learned how to learn. You're starting your adult life in a globalized society undergoing rapid and accelerating technological change. In this information age, most of the specific knowledge you have obtained will become obsolete in a few years, with the sum total of human knowledge doubling every 2 to 3 years. In addition, people entering the workforce today are expected to have to change careers, not just jobs, 5 to 7 times during their lifetime. So in all likelihood, you will be applying the lifelong learning skills you have developed in your college years to acquire knowledge that has not been created yet and to apply it in occupations that do not yet exist. You're also leaving college at a time of historic geopolitical changes, a turning point in history. The era in which I grew up, one characterized by a Cold War between 2 superpowers representing starkly different socioeconomic models, is now a distant memory. After an interim period of the U.S. as the single superpower, this is the age of transition to a new multilateral world order in which new emerging powers are making their place in the international economic arena. China and India, for instance, are 2 of the most populous countries in the world, respectively with 1.3 billion and 1.1 billion people, and are experiencing rapid modernization, a growing middle class, and are growing their share of the world's economic output. Their gross domestic product growth rates in 2011 were respectively 9.3 and 7.1%, even as the advanced economies of the world were still working their way out of the recession. This era is also one of turmoil and transformation in the Middle East, although it's still uncertain what shape and direction the new configuration will take there. We're also a society in demographic transition. The U.S. is completing its second major wave of immigration, primarily from Latin America, and its repercussions will be felt for decades to come. By the year 2000, Hispanics were the largest minority in the country, at 12.6%, and projected to increase to 30.2% by 2050, primarily through domestic birth rates. The school-age population was 38% minority in 2000 and will be 56% by 2050. To navigate this new multicultural, multipolar society, you will also benefit from the exposure to diverse cultures and societies provided by your college education. I know how valuable my college experience was as a foundation for not only my own unpredictable professional career, but also for enriching the full measure of my life experience on this earth. When I started college, I thought I wanted to be a scholar in the field of philosophy of science. So I majored in physics and minored in philosophy. By the time I graduated, I had given up on that plan and decided to become a nuclear engineer. So I got a master's in that field. After working for a while as an engineer, I decided to change fields again and went back to college, got the PhD in economics, and started a new career as a college professor. Eventually, I became an academic administrator, first a business school dean, then a vice president for academic affairs. And in the biggest surprise of all, I got a phone call in October 2009, out of the blue, asking me if I would be interested in joining the Obama administration as Assistant Secretary for Postsecondary Education. So looking back on these twists and turns, I can see that I have been able to draw from everything I learned in college across disparate fields throughout my professional life. Nothing went to waste, but it was used in unexpected ways. Philosophy has helped me make thoughtful decisions by giving logical discipline to the process of analyzing problems, as well as ethical clarity and applying values to guide that process. It has helped me be a better administrator and academic leader, in keeping with Peter Drucker's observation that management is doing things right, leadership is doing the right things. Physics and engineering gave me the quantitative and computing skills that came in very handy when writing a dissertation on an economics topic that required them. Those skills and my knowledge of economics were later very useful in handling university budgets and holding my own as academic vice president when negotiating with the university's chief financial officer. And finally, my exposure to the liberal arts and world civilizations prepared me well when working with people in politics, business, and academia in Europe, Asia, and Latin America, both as an academic administrator, a government official, and a consultant in international projects at different times. So the lesson I draw from those experiences is that in this fascinating, ever-changing, dynamic world that we live in, you will be called on time and time again to reinvent yourself and draw on every previous experience, knowledge, intuition, and insight that you have acquired in your life. And you can never predict how and in what way what you learned in a course unrelated to your major or a skill that you have acquired, how they will come in handy in the future. And this will continue to be true throughout your life. To continue to look for new work and new personal experiences that require you to learn something new, to stretch intellectually and emotionally, to fully utilize your capacities, is the essence of a full, rich life. Aristotle defined happiness as living so as to attain the full realization of our potentialities, or as the Army put it once more succinctly, to be all that you can be. When it comes to the role of education in our country, President Obama has set an ambitious and transformational goal for us. By the year 2020, the U.S. will once again be the most educated nation in the world, with the percentage of Americans with a post-secondary credential rising from the current 40 to 60%. There are many reasons why this would be a good thing. Higher educational levels are associated with lower crime rates, greater voter participation, and improvements in a whole host of other social indicators. But the most critical reason is that we need to do this to maintain our global competitiveness. In recent years, by one measure of educational attainment, we have slipped from 1st to 9th in the world. This will not do in the 21st century. Accelerating technological innovation means that old jobs are being destroyed and new ones created at a faster rate, and the new jobs require higher educational levels. Without higher educational levels for all Americans, there will be an increasing mismatch between the skills required by new jobs and those of our countrymen and women. At the Department of Education, under the leadership of Secretary Arne Duncan, we have embraced the President's challenging and exciting goal. It is the North Star of our department. It guides everything we do. There's a lot of exciting work going on in the department in the K-12 area to strengthen our elementary schools, our high schools, and teacher preparation and development through such programs as Race to the Top, Investing in Innovation, and several other initiatives. This is essential for greater post-secondary attainment because high school graduates need to be college and career ready. Once students are ready educationally to attend college, they need help paying for it, something which has become more difficult as many states are cutting back their support for public higher education institutions in these difficult financial times. And college affordability is becoming an increasingly important issue across the board. That's why this administration is committed to maintaining the maximum Pell Grant award levels and taking the necessary steps to ensure that Pell Grants continue to be available to all qualified students. It's also why we carried out the transition to 100% federal direct loans, an operation that has been accomplished smoothly and is yielding tens of billions of dollars in savings that can be used to expand access to those funds. It's also why, most currently, why the President is fighting to keep the interest rate on federal student loans from rising to 6.8% from the current 3.4%. But beyond this, we are faced with an affordability and capacity challenge in higher education that will need to be overcome if our nation is to reach the higher educational levels needed to be globally competitive in an information economy, and to have a thriving culture, and to lead fulfilling lives. To help with that challenge, the President has proposed several new higher education initiatives, which are embodied in the 2013 budget proposal from the President. One of them is called Race to the Top, College Affordability and Completion. This competitive state program will be awarded to state proposals that demonstrate a commitment to statewide reforms designed to improve access and completion, raise graduation rates, streamline transfers between community colleges and four-year institutions, keep tuition levels from rising further, and most importantly, provide steady, reasonable levels of funding to public higher education institutions. And this is, this is not by no means does that minimize the key role that private institutions like Detroit Mercy fulfill in contributing to this goal for our country. Now, the second program is called First in the World, which is a competitive program that would run under the Fund for the Improvement of Post-Secondary Education. And this program will fund proposals from individual institutions of higher ed aimed at developing, demonstrating, or scaling up innovations in teaching and learning that incorporate advances in pedagogy and learning research and new uses of information technology to improve effectiveness, quality, and productivity. I know that's a word that's sometimes causes a little concern in higher education, but properly understood, it's something we need. With this program, we hope to catalyze really a cultural transformation in which higher education is provided with incentives to further this kind of activity among our faculty. And thirdly, we're proposing expanding and reforming a cluster of existing campus-based financial aid programs so they will create incentives among institutions to better serve low-income students, keep costs and tuition down, and raise graduation rates. The programs are the Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant, Perkins loans, which would grow substantially from $1 billion to $8.5 billion, and federal work study. which would now be linked explicitly to internships aimed at furthering a student's educational objectives, and which it is intended to double over the next 5 years. Altogether, in 2013, these 3 campus-based programs would be funded at $10.5 billion. So these are some of the things that we're doing to help meet the challenge that the President has laid out for us. But enough about us. On this day of commencement, I'm sure there are myriad people and experiences that stand out, that help make each one of you the graduate that you are today. And so this is what college is all about, a life-transforming experience. I know it was for me. That's why it's so important for us to work towards the President's goal, and why the work of excellent institutions like University of Detroit Mercy are critical to our country's future. You, the University of Detroit Mercy graduates of 2012, embody our hopes for that future, and I know you will do us proud. I congratulate you and wish you great success and a rich and rewarding life.
It is my pleasure to call to the platform the first of 2 valedictorians of the class of 2012, Ms. Maria Ibarra from the College of Liberal Arts and Education.
Good afternoon. I wish I had some heartwarming story about how I just knew what I wanted to do since I was 5 years old. That I just knew I was cut out to do something from the moment I started doing it. Well, that's not the case. Like many of you sitting here today, I started college having absolutely no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I knew I was terrible at math, and I could not imagine myself sitting in a cubicle shuffling paper around, but that was about it. It took me 2 years and a lot of failed attempts to finally figure out I wanted to double major in English and social work. And even after I officially declared a major, I still wasn't sure what exactly I was doing. In the middle of my sophomore year, amidst a chaotic and overloaded schedule, I found out my family could no longer afford paying a mortgage in the suburbs. We would have to move to the one place I dreaded living in, Detroit. Before I knew it, we moved into a family household next to an abandoned house infested with drugs and crime. I don't have to explain how bad it was. Many of our parents probably felt the same way when they first dropped us off here for orientation. For a few weeks after moving in, I was completely devastated. I was angry and scared, and quite frankly, embarrassed to live in such a bad neighborhood. But it was then that I started to think, I claim to care about Detroit. I mean, I came to school here, right? I was involved in so many clubs and organizations that did service in the city, but I never actually stopped to reflect on the motive behind the service. So, for the first time, I asked myself, if I want to make a difference in Detroit, how can I fix what I don't understand? In order to move forward, I first had to stop and analyze the connection between picking a major and understanding a city that needs help. Just like I had taken the time to explore my English and social work degree, I had to gain insider information on Detroit. Not only the impact of coming to school here, but what it means to be a resident of Detroit. It is not enough to stay behind the safety of an enclosed campus, always cautious of what will happen if we step outside the metal gates. It doesn't have to be as drastic as moving to an impoverished area in Detroit, but it does start with knowing why there's a need to make a difference. As we reminisce about our time here at UDM, I want us to remember the Detroit who made us. But mostly, I want us to think about how we can move forward. How can we, as professionals, continue to change the image of our hometown, our Detroit? We still have a responsibility to continue to live the UDM mission, to be ethically and morally aware of our urban context, and to strive for intellectual and social development. The long hours of caffeine-rich all-nighters may be over, but it does not mean we should stop continuing to study our education it does not mean we should stop studying our connection to something bigger than ourselves and stop analyzing how we react to the situations we are placed in. So next time somebody asks you if you have ever been shot in Detroit, you can tell them that there's more to the city than what they see on Fox News. There's a class full of college graduates who hand deliver meals to members of the community who can't leave their house and would probably go hungry for a few days if it wasn't for students at UDM. There are students who plan poetry nights and charge a can of food, who collect coats in the middle of March because we know it will probably still snow in May. Most importantly, there are students who have passion for learning, for helping, for finding something they love and transforming it into a career. As we take the next step forward as a class of 2012, think about what it means to graduate from a university in Detroit. It says a lot about who you are, where you came from, and where you're going. I am proud to be a graduate of the University of Detroit Mercy and to have grown up in Detroit. I am proud to be a Titan. Congratulations, class of 2012. It truly has been an honor. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. It's my pleasure to call to the platform the second valedictorian of the class of 2012, Ms. Susan Kalkstein from the College of Liberal Arts and Education.
Very early in my college career, nearly 4 years ago, my philosophy professor paused, suspended her lecture, and then turned to the class and said, "You know, the most important thing in life is your relationships. When it all boils down, that's all you really have in the end." And in the end, come final exams, when we were to reflect upon an entire semester of theories and texts and answer a question asking, what was the most important thing you learned in this class? I nearly instinctively referred back to that offhanded comment because I felt like from that point forward, everything made sense in life and in that course. Relationships are what define us, and not just as recent college graduates or as emerging young adults. Relationships define us as human beings. Relationships shade in the outline of who we are through how we spend our time and to whom we expend our emotions. In 2012, as a graduate from the University of Detroit Mercy, our identity is molded through these connections. This university is not just about ensuring one's loyalty to the school. UDM has been invested since when the University of Detroit and Mercy College merged in 1990, in involving the relationships of their students with themselves, their school, their city, and most significantly, with their fellow brothers and sisters in God's family, which substantiate all of the former. An education from UDM has allowed us to examine ourselves intellectually, symbolized by the diploma we are about to receive, physically, through the athletic teams training year-round, or through playing a pickup game of hoops in Callahan, emotionally, through drawing upon strength gained from past tribulations and used to enable future triumphs. And amidst it all, spiritually, through attending campus mass Sunday nights or saying a simple prayer before a big game or exam. This relationship we have created with ourselves reveals to our minds and hearts every reason why we should love and respect the remarkable people we are sitting here today. For the last 4 years, as we were maturing our own self-conception, it was made possible by those that have fostered that incredible potential within us many yesterdays ago and will continue to do so for many tomorrows. Our earthly family, from which we originate, is an inextricable, invaluable contributor to our educational and personal progress. Today, as they sit beside us or reside with us in spirit, let us graciously thank them for their support to pursue a college education, encouragement to persevere through at least eight semesters, and for that infinite love they provide that lights each demanding day. You have allowed us to emerge into these young adults before you that always aspire to make you proud. Although many of us have had the ability to commute to class daily, many more of us receive that FaceTime fix virtually through technology. In my case, a phone call to mom and dad in Pennsylvania. Because distance separates us, faculty and staff members have bridged the gap and acted as our extended family on campus. Our interdependence embodies the elements of humanity that knows not profession, status, or age. Sometimes we are teachers, and sometimes we are students, but always together, we are children of God. Lastly, and most universally, we, as graduates from UDM, have been shown the necessary beauty of developing relationships with those who sit next to us in class and celebrate with us today. Nonetheless, the Jesuit values instilled in our career at UDM are intended to transcend the parameters of this campus. It is part of our purpose to use our talents and gifts to pursue relationship with all of our brothers and sisters outside the cross-section of Livernois and McNichols, no matter how impoverished or how wealthy they may be. These relationships, human to human, are to extend beyond our years at UDM and location in Detroit, while always remaining grounded in this unifying foundation. For these essential human relationships, I came to the city of Detroit. We came to Detroit, and not just to Detroit, but to the University of Detroit Mercy. And for that blessing, I am honored to consider myself part of this class of 2012. Congratulations, and God bless all the relationships you have harvested at UDM and those that will continue to grow as you do. Thank you.